Hi guys, so we had this empty 60-liter Dennerli Nano Cube, which I previously used as a quarantine tank, and since I'm not planning to quarantine any fish anytime soon, I've decided to create a biotope here. And the idea is to create a biotope of an Indonesian peat swamp. So it's going to be a Blackwater biotope, but it's going to be an extreme Blackwater, not something that I've had before. It's going to be a really dark water, Blackwater biotope with almost zero level of visibility. We'll keep some nano Asian fish in here, such as Chili rasbora and Licorice gouramis, maybe some wild species of betta. I haven't kept Asian fish for a very long time. I haven't kept any other fish except South American fish for probably more than 8 years. So this is something new for me. I'm not very familiar with Asian fish, but I've had quite a lot of experience with Blackwater tanks, and so this is certainly going to be a slightly different challenge because of the level of acidity that I want to achieve here. Because I will be imitating a peat swamp, I will actually have to use a peat substrate in this tank. So I've got this 10 liters of 100% Irish moss peat. I haven't used peat in any of my tanks for a really long time because peat is not really environmentally sustainable, and it's not something I would prefer to use in my tanks as a substrate or as a medium to create Blackwater, although it's widely used in the hobby. But nevertheless, in order to create a peat swamp biotope, I have no other choice but to use a peat moss. So this is supposed to be a sustainably harvested peat moss, and I'll give it a try. I will just use it as a substrate, so I will create a layer of peat moss on the bottom. I will not be using any other substrate except this one, so it will hopefully create this highly acidic, peaty, if you can use this word, type of environment. And on top of this peat moss, I will add a layer of botanicals, leaf litter, and all other botanicals. But first, I will create the scape. I will add this substrate. I will fill it up with water, and I will let this peat acidify to basically release all the tannins that it has inside. So this is what we have for this project. It's quite a mixture of things. Some of the things I had to buy, some of the other things I had in previous tanks. So this is a bunch of bamboo sticks. These are real bamboo sticks, and unfortunately they are not hollow inside, so I don't know how is it going to work. I expected them to be hollow inside, but there is actually malm inside, and maybe it's going to decay, but we'll see. Because this is a biotope of an Asian peat swamp, Indonesian peat swamp, I thought using bamboo would be natural. They are quite heavy, so they seem to be sinking straight away, and I will see whether I would be able to use them. I have here a piece of lucky bamboo, Dracena type of plant, which I will be using in this setup as well. Over here is a fern. I don't remember the name of that fern. We had it in one of our tanks. We also have here quite a bunch of other plants. This is a lucky pothos. This is Hydrocotyle leucocephala, which was growing immersed actually. So it was growing immersed. I don't know whether it will fit in this setup, but we'll see. Here I have two different types of mosses. This is the Sphagnum Moss and this is Java Moss. I will try to use them on top of growing on top of driftwood, or possibly immersed. A bunch of different pieces of driftwood. These are just oak tree twigs. This is an oak tree bark. It has been pre-soaked and it has been treated, so it actually sinks. Over here I've got two pieces of mangrove driftwood, also pre-soaked and treated and ready to be used. And this is oak tree, which we just collected in a forest nearby. It was apparently sold off. I have kept it in water for quite a while, so it's waterlogged as well, and it's sinking. It's still releasing quite a lot of tannins, which is probably great for this type of setup. And here we've got Philodendron white line, which we will be using as a riparian plant, and In here we've got two types of ferns to be used as riparian plants growing on top of driftwood. This is Asparagus Fern and this is Maidenhair Fern. So we added water, and expectedly most of the peat moss has gone to the surface because it's not waterlogged. I could have waterlogged it, I could have soaked it in water in advance, but I didn't. So that's what happens now. It's going to take a few days for it to actually completely soak in the water and to go down to the bottom, and for the water to get cleaner. This is when I'm going to add a leaf litter on top of that peat moss once it's on the bottom of the tank, and then I'm going to add some floating plants. I'm going to attach Java moss to the driftwood. At the moment, obviously, you can't see anything in there, and I can't see how the scape looks under the water. So it's going to take a few days for it to settle down, and that's when we're going to get back to this tank. So it's been day 3. You can see that all of the peat has sunken to the bottom. It used to be kind of for the first couple of days, much of this peat was swimming on top of the tank next to the surface, but eventually it has sunken down basically overnight, and now we have this really nice bed of naturally looking bed of peat, which actually looks like a soil, and it is basically a soil, a type of soil. So it looks just amazing. This is exactly what I wanted it to look like. One thing that I didn't consider in advance is that peat is actually expands in volume after it absorbs water. So once you soak it in water, it kind of expands 2 or 3 times previous weight. And now I have quite a thick layer of substrate in here, but that's actually great because it looks great and it provides more space for bacteria to colonize. And I've only used some types of riparian plants. I've used this beautiful Asparagus Fern in here. It sits on top of a driftwood, and I've added quite a lot of Sphagnum Moss to keep its roots moist, and a bit of Peat Moss here as well. Right. Over here we got this beautiful Maidenhair Fern, and in the back there is Golden Pothos here, just a small piece, and this is a Dracena, lucky bamboo plant. I also added quite a few floating plants. It's a mixture of duckweed, Amazon frogbeet, red rooters, and regular water lettuce. I know that these plants can be quite sensitive to Blackwater environments, and I know that not all of them will get adapted to this setup, so probably I'm going to lose some of them. That's why I've added such a variety, to make sure that at least one species will actually survive and thrive in here. For now, I'm quite happy with this coastal area which I've created here with driftwood. Behind, as you could see in the earlier parts of this video, behind that coastal area there is a spray bar from a pump that's based behind this bark, this tree bark, and it pushes water through the sphagnum moss and through the roots of the plants back into the tank. There's no other filtration, and that's actually not a filtration, it's just a pump that creates this waterfall effect and pushes water through the roots of the plants and keeps them moist, and it actually drops back into the tank, so it creates some movement, surface movement, which will provide oxygen. There is no other water movement in the tanks. So today I have changed about 30% of the water. Previously I used to have here just a regular tap water, and I've replaced it with filtered water, HMA filtered water. And the next step to do on this tank is in approximately 3 days, I will do another water change, and then I'm going to add all the botanicals. I'm going to add leaf litter, I'm going to add some alder cones, and yes, basically that's the only botanicals that I'm going to be using in this tank to cover some of that surface, because at the moment this peat moss, well, it looks like it's staying firm on the bottom, but it's actually not. If I'll just slightly touch the bottom, it's going to actually float up, and because it's very soft and it's very light, so it's not going to stay attached to the bottom of the tank unless something will actually press it down. So I will use botanicals to press it down so that it doesn't float and it doesn't spread all over the tank every time there is some movement on the bottom. Okay, so that's the next step to do on this tank. So it's been day 6, and I've done another massive water change, replacing the tap water with filtered water. As you can see, all of the peat moss is already on the bottom, so it looks like this relatively uniform substrate, and it looks like soil. It looks very natural, so I'm quite happy with the way this substrate currently looks. And so the next stage is to add leaf litter to the bottom, and I'm going to be using 2 types of leaves, jackfruit leaves. I'm not going to use catappa leaves because catappa leaves that I have are quite large, and this is a relatively small setup, so they're going to look quite weird on the bottom. So I'm going to use this jackfruit leaves, which is something that I've discovered quite recently for my Blackwater tanks, because first of all, these are quite tough and sturdy leaves, so they don't take too long to sink to the bottom. So it takes them about a couple of days to sink to the bottom, but it takes them really long time to start decaying and to soften up, which is not the case with catappa leaves. Catappa leaves don't last too long underwater, but jackfruit leaves, they actually last quite a long time, and they look very tropical. This is actually a tropical plant. I will also be using magnolia leaves and alder cones. I don't boil my leaf litter, because if you boil your leaf litter, it's not going to last as long in your fish tank as when you add it fresh, so to say. Also, when you boil leaf litter, it kind of releases all the tannins, and of course you can add these tannins after you boil the leaf litter in your fish tank, but I prefer to do it natural way. So I will just add this leaf litter. I washed it under tap water, and I will add it straight to the tank. It will take this leaf litter a while to sink to the bottom and to start releasing tannins, and this is what I want this leaf litter to do, to release tannins and to color up this water even darker. After that, I will probably add some rooibos tea to add more tannins and to add more colors to this water, to make this water really kind of a reddish and dark brownish. Only after that, and it will probably take another week, I will be adding fish. Currently I don't have any fish that I would like to add to this tank, so I need to go shopping for the fish. And overall, I want this tank to mature. I want it to stay without fish for another week. I will add here some mature biological media from my other tanks, so it will be safe for fish whenever I have fish. But I just want all this peat moss and leaf litter to release their tannins and to make this water really settled and really mature. So I will be adding fish in another video, and this is all for now. So I hope you have enjoyed this relatively long video. Leave your comments in the comment section. I will see you soon.